There's one question that breaks almost every agent demo. What happens when the agent makes the wrong tool call? In a demo, the answer is nothing. The demo only runs the happy path. The tools always succeed. The model always picks the right tool. The parameters always validated. Nothing's enforcing anything because nothing is at stake. But in production, the same question has consequences. A wrong tool call can spend money that you didn't authorize for. It can send in a message that you didn't intend to. It can touch a record that should have been left alone. An agent calling the tools without validation is not innovation, it's operational risk wrapped in a clean UI. Now, this video is about the layer where most demos hide and every production system has. Whether the team designed it deliberately or built it under the pressure after the first incident. I see this a lot, guys. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee this. Look at almost any agent demo. So, four things are true over there: unrestricted tool calls, the agent has the registry, the model will pick a tool, the call will go through, there's no pre-fight validation, there's no business rule check, there's no authorization step. The agent is given the keys and trusted with them. Unlimited loops. The agent can plan, reflect, retry, replan. In the demo, it always converges, but in production, it sometimes doesn't. A non converging agent is a runaway process, a cost line that bends upward now. An incident is waiting to be paged. If there's no output validation, whatever the model returns is treated as truth. The model claims the action succeeded, the agent would move on, but the tool call may have failed silently. The output may not match the schema. The agent doesn't know because nothing is being checked. No approval workflow. The agent is allowed to take any action that materially affect the real world, sending messages, transferring the data, executing the transaction without a human gate and without the budget check and without a policy review. Now, this pattern is impressive in a given demo scenario. It fails the first 24 hours of production itself. The architecture that survives is structurally different, and I want to walk you through as what it actually look like. See, the first layer is what we call it as the tool validation layer. Every tool call pass through this layer before it teaches anything real. And this includes the parameter validation. That means the arguments the model produced have to match the schema that my tool expects. Type ranges, required fields, format constraint. These are the key things and the validation that we need to include. And this is the most basic check. And this is the one that gets skipped by most frameworks and teams by default. But a senior team adds it as a hard precondition. No call would go through if my parameters don't get validated. Schema validation extends to nested fields, enums, business types. An order ID field is not just a string, it has to match the format that my system uses. And it has to reference an actual order. You need to treat the model's output as untrusted input because that's what it is. It's a probabilistic system. Next is the policy check. Does this user, agent role, and this context permit this given action? So, if you think about it, authorization is never your job of the model. It's your orchestrator's job or it's your code job to ensure that the authorization is taken care. The model will simply propose, the policy layer will dispose. Budget validation. Does this call push us over per request budget or per user budget or per day budget? A senior agent has budget at three levels. The model is not aware of them, but the validator should be. Authorization. Even within the permitted policy, does the user have the rights on a specific entity that my action targets? Like row level authorization. It's not optional. In any system, that's the one that will handle the user data. The tool validation layer is not optional. It's the boundary between the agent demoware and the agent system. Demos run without it, but production system can't run. Moving on, let's take a look into the layer number two, that is the guardrail. Now, this is where the validation checks the parameters and the policy. The guardrails will check the semantics and the safety. From guardrails, the input from the user or from an upstream system gets filtered for injection attempt, policy violation, out of scope request. And this is done even before it reaches the model. And this is what we call it as the first line of defense against the prompt injection. It's not perfect, but it's a necessity. Output guardrail, that means the model's response gets filtered before it leaves the system. Profanity, PI leakage, fabricated citation, jailbroken instruction. An output classifier will catch us a non-trivial portion of these, pair it with the rule-based check for categories that you can't risk missing. Compliance check. For regulated domains, especially like finance, healthcare, legal, specific content patterns are forbidden. Other patterns are required right now. The compliance check will enforce them at the output layer. This is independent of how my model was prompted. PII protection. Like you need to detect the personally identifiable information in the input and the output. You need to mask or redact before the data flows further. You need to have audit of every event, and this is a separate component, and it's not a prompt instruction. Prompt instruction can actually be bypassed, but your detector cannot. And this masking or redaction also needs to be taken care while performing the logging as well. Next, hallucination reduction. You need to combine the retrieval grounded generation with the citation validation. The model can claim a fact, but the system can actually check whether the cited source actually contains the claim or not. If there's any mismatch, needs to get flagged, downgraded, or rejected. So none of this, if you look at it, is glamorous. All of it is the difference between a system that ships and a system that gets pulled after a security review. On layer number three, this is non-negotiable. That's called as the observability. Now, you can't operate an agent that you can't see, and you can't debug an incident that you didn't trace. So trace monitoring. So every request that your agent emits, it has to emit the structured trace, the user message, the retrieval result, the model output, every tool call with arguments, it should return, and every validator decision, it has to be validated. When a user complains about a bad answer 12 hours later, you have to be able to reconstruct exactly what the agent did. So tool call logs, and this should be separate from trace, an immutable log of every external action taken with timestamp, request assignability, and the outcome of it. And this log is the basis of every post-mortem that you would be doing it on the incident. Token usage and cost telemetry. So per request, per session, per user, per tenant, daily, weekly, and per feature. See, the cost surprises are not surprises if the proper telemetry is in place. And most incidents that I have investigated were actually preventable. The team didn't know what this system was actually spending until the bill arrived after a month. Latency monitoring at the stage level, not just the end to end. So that's one more scenario that I've seen people making that mistake. So each stage, retrieval, re-ranking, model inference, tool execution. So it has its own P50, P95, and P99. And when the latency degrades, you need to know as which stage. The stage aggregated end-to-end numbers will generally hide this problem. The other things that you need to do over here is failure tracking bucketed by class, like schema violation, policy denial, tool failure, hallucination flag, trend lines on each. Have alerts when any class crosses a certain threshold. Now, this is a layer that helps you to operate a system rather than just deploy it. Next, on the layer number 4, we have the human approval. Now, not every action requires the human approval, but some action do require it. And the architecture has to know as which one. To give you an example, the decision criteria are usually three: irreversibility, blast radius, and confidence. So, irreversibility means if the action can't be undone, like refund or sending a message, which is, let's say, which is not confident, which is highly critical, a human must approve, like sending a message, transferring money, deleting the data, executing a transaction. The agent can only propose it, but a human will confirm it. Blast radius: if the action affects more than a small, well defined set of entities, a human must approve. Bulk operation, broad notification, system wide changes. That's where it requires. Confidence: if the agent's own confidence on the action is below a certain threshold, escalate it. Now, this is the easiest mechanism to implement it and the most underused one. The agent already has the signal about how sure it is. We just have to use them. So the pattern for the human layer is a queue with context. The queue entry is not approve this action. Queue entry is here's what the agent wants to do. Here is the evidence. Here are the alternatives that the agent has considered. And this is my agent's confidence. Then the human will approve, modify, or reject it with reasoning. The reason will now become the training data for the next iteration of the system. So most teams that build the agentic system eventually arrive at some version of this. The senior move is to design it on the day zero itself, not on the week 6 of production where your executives is sitting on top of your head. Now, let's take a look into these production failure example. Let's make this concrete, guys. So these production agentic failures that I've either seen, debugged, or read in postmortems are these guys. Wrong transaction. An agent calling the financial API, which authorized a refund for the wrong order because the model picked the first order ID, which saw in the conversation history instead of the one in the current message. Tool validation would have actually caught it, but the team didn't have the output validation against such business rule. Runaway tool loop. An agent stuck in a plan reflect retry loop made 184 tool calls on a single user request before the max iteration guard finally fired. 3 hours later, because the guard was implemented in the wrong layer, it was then identified. The bill for that one request was substantial. Excessive spend. A team had no per user cost budget. One user discovered the system had actually ran 8,200 requests in 36 hours, and each one invoking the most expensive model on the longest possible context. And team learned by reading the invoice. Unsafe output. A regulated domain agent generated a recommendation, while accurate, contained a content published, which is actually prohibited by my compliance policy. The output guardrail caught nothing because the team had not configured the compliance specific check. The incident triggered a 6-week pause of the entire feature. Now, none of these are exotic failures, but all of them were preventable with 4 layers that I've just described. And none of them appeared in any demo. All of them appeared in production within the first 90 days. And this is uncomfortable, guys. And it's also the good news because the layer that catches all the 4 is the layer that you can design before they even happen. Now, here is the architecture in one frame, guys. So a request would enter, the prompt guardrail will filter it, the agent will plan on the action, the tool will validate, it will check the parameters, schema, policy, budget, authorization. The tool then gets executed. The output validator checks the result against the schema and the business rule. The output guardrail checks for safety, PII, and compliance. And if the action is reversible, like large radius or low confidence, the human approval queue intercepts. That means if my action is irreversible. Okay. Now you'll have an observability that will log every step. Now that's your architecture. The agent is not the architecture. The architecture is the one that is surrounding this one single node of agent. The control surface that you're building, that's the product. So when teams talk about the agentic system, they usually mean the agent. But when the senior engineers ship the agentic system, they mean the control surface. The agent is interchangeable. The control surface is the durable engineering artifact. You don't fake experience, you simulate the responsibility. If you're designing or reviewing an agentic system right now, I want you to ask the four question. Where is my tool validation? Where are my guardrails? Where is my observability? And where is the human approval? If any one of those four is missing, the system is one incident away from teaching the team the answer the hard way. All right, guys, if you want to learn how to design and operate the control surface, not the agent, the surface around it, that's the focus of our Agentic AI Enterprise Mastery Bootcamp. Now, if your main focus is on the interview, check out our Agentic AI interview playbook. If your main focus is on system design, check out our AI architect system design as well. I've linked everything below, but whether you join or not, the message stands. The agent is not the product, but your control surface is. Demos will showcase the agent, but the production runs on the surface. So build the surface deliberately, or production will teach you the hard way to build it in a reactive manner. The first one is cheaper. The goal is not to sound advanced, but the goal is to sound responsible. That's how you build the responsible agentic system. That's the video, guys. Next time, when you see an agent demo with unrestricted tool calls, unlimited loops, and no validation, ask the question from the start itself. I'll see you next time.